This is the first help desk, as you know, of the new call. So this is going to be more of a general presentation of the call. We hope that many of you got the opportunity to read it or at least to scan it through, and maybe you already are here with some questions. We have 1 hour together. So the first thing with the agenda of today is basically to tell you very briefly what Perform Europe is, but if you're here, I assume that you know, but to give you a little bit of context. And then we go into the main important section of the call and the guidelines, sharing with you also, some resources that you can really consult and reminder of next event. And then we're going to have a session of Q&A. So I hope that my presentation will not be longer than 20 minutes. Let's see. So please note down your questions, and there's going to be a lot of time at the end for you to, input on that. I think we have most of the people registered in the room, so I will then start. As I said, for the people coming late, the meeting is being registered, recorded, and then we're going to share it. If you need, you can also use the Zoom caption. They have different options for languages, so you can enable that yourself as well. So let's start. As you all know, Perform Europe is a forward-looking funding scheme for the performing arts that support including diverse and environmentally sustainable cross-border touring the performing arts across the Creative Europe countries, which are now officially 41. We arrive now to the 3rd edition of the program, and this is actually the last edition under the current Creative Europe program. So we had the first edition between 2020 and 2022 that supported 19 projects, a second between 23 and 26 just ended last March that supported 42 projects. And now we are launching the 3rd edition. The full project, it's a 2-year project, so it's going to officially end at the end of March of 2028. And the goal is to support a minimum of 25 projects with the Perform Europe grants. Perform Europe is co-funded by the European Union, so we do this project together with them. And it's managed by a consortium of 6 organizations, including ITM, which is the lead of the consortium, and other network, which are the European Festival Association, European Dance Development Network, Circostrada, Pearl, and Idea Consult on top of it, which is a research organization that help us with the research part of the project. This being said, we start diving into what you actually want to know more, which is the open call of this year. So maybe you heard about Perform Europe before, and now you're here to say, okay, what's the opportunity this time? The open call opened last week and is going to close on the 22nd of October. So you have basically 4 months for apply and to create your proposals. In total, we're going to grant 1.4 million to a minimum of 25 projects, as I was saying before. And overall, the ethos of Perform Europe stays. So we're looking for new ideas to do performing art work in a way that is more inclusive, diverse, and green. And this is very important. Perform Europe is really more of a sort of laboratory or incubator for new ways of doing touring. So we want to gather the ideas that come directly from the sector. Here's the timeline of the full project of the 3rd edition. So we already spoke about the call period, and then after the 22nd of October, we're going to have a period of selection, of course, where we're going to evaluate all the applications. And then the plan is to announce the selected partnerships between the end of January and February 2027, which means that then the touring can officially start from 1st of March. You don't have to, but the touring period starts from there until the 31st of January 2028. So your proposal needs to be developed in that span of time. And then we're going to officially wrap up this edition at the end of March of 2028. So here you have the full span. Let's dive into the call. So you might, as I said, hopefully you already got the chance to see the guidelines. And this is a recap of the index of the call that you can find on our website. So it opens up with the context and the key terms that I advise you to look into the text because it's a much easier way to see it. Then we have the eligibility criteria, what is expected. So what actually is Perform Europe about aside from touring, how you can find partners, the priorities, which is the key aspect of Perform Europe, what we ask in the application, what the grant cover, so what the technicality, what's happened with the contract, step-by-step procedure to apply, the documents, and then it concludes with the evaluation and award procedure. So what I will do now is to dive into some of these specific sections, not all of them, to highlight the most important part of it. And I'm going to start with actually the eligibility criteria. So recap of what are the minimum requirements. So any professional and organization working in the performing arts and legally based in one of the 41 Creative Euro countries can be part of a partnership that applies for Perform Europe. So the very important thing to stress is that it's not about nationality, it's really about where you're based and where are you working. Then the application itself comes from a partnership that needs to have a minimum of 3 partners that are based in 3 Creative Euro countries. And this, again, is the minimum. And on top of it, this partnership needs to propose a presentation of a minimum of 1 performing arts work, so one work that tours in at least 3 Creative Euro countries. Again, these are minimum. All performing art disciplines are eligible, excluding live music and opera, because there are some other Creative Europe initiative that kind of complements Perform Europe, and also because we go by the definition of performing arts that Creative Europe has, which is including dance, theater, puppetry, circus, performance, and all the intersection of them. And still on the eligibility criteria, very important is like what is not eligible actually. So really outstanding those. And this is a question that probably you will have. So if a proposal already received a Perform Euro grant in the first or second edition is not eligible, meaning the exact same project cannot be funded the second time. Then if partners of your proposal are evaluators of Perform Europe, or they work at the agency, or they work for so they're the staff of the consortium part of Perform Europe. And there is also a case of double funding. So if partners or partnership receive other EU funding for the same exact proposal, they cannot also apply for Perform Europe. So important things for you to know. Now we go into this section, which we added this year, which is called what is expected from selected proposals. And this really comes from the experience that we have in these 2 editions of wanting to explain better what Perform Europe is about, because it's not just a funding scheme, it's much more than that. So if you get selected for a grant from our side, of course, we expect the project to tour and deliver their project as they describe to us. And this is, of course, the heart of it. In the project that we ask you to develop, there is also a requirement to develop capacity building activities for the partners themselves. So you specifically will need to dedicate 1.5% of your budget to develop activity that can help all partners to explore a specific subject or maybe share knowledge, really like also bridging gaps between you two and probably like strengthening your relationship. And this I can also tell you that in Perform Euro 2, this is one of the highlights of the project that participated, this capacity building aspect. Then stepping out of the individual, let's say, partnerships, Perform Europe will also organize some peer-to-peer session to connect all the project involved. So we're going to do 3 sessions involving representative of each selected proposals with the goal to share knowledge, share the challenges, create collective intelligence, so kind of do a level up of the, let's say, individual experiences to more a collective one. And then very importantly, there is also administration and reporting involved as every grant scheme. And we just want to highlight that this should not be underestimated even when you create your budget and you allocate resources. And then lastly but not least, we also want to involve the projects into sharing their experience with the outside sector. So with communication activities from interviews, social media, even more. So this, you have a full picture of, what it's expected in a way. Then we enter into the section about how to look for partners. And now I give the word to Mariam, since she's the expert of our matchmaking platform.
Thank you, Margarita. We created the matchmaking platform, an online platform on our website, performeurope.eu. where you can sign up, create your profile, listing your offers and needs, and writing shortly about yourself or your organization. After your profile is accepted, you can explore other profiles, use filters to filter for the discipline, for country, topic of interest, and you find a number of profiles also looking for the partners. You can send match requests. And if the other party accepts the request, you will unlock the contact information about each other and continue communication of the platform. What is special about this platform is that we have already more than 2,300, currently it's 390 profiles of performing arts professionals and organizations covering all 41 countries. And what has been updated recently is that we have added a collaboration badge to the platform, which is indicator that the specific profile is interested to collaborate with others in the upcoming open call. So you can use a checkbox on the dashboard to filter specifically these profiles who are open for collaboration and start building your partnership. We created it in the beginning specifically for connecting potential partners for our open call. But growing interest in this platform showed us that it can operate beyond our open call, and we've seen many examples when artists and organizations are using it to find partners for other grant projects and other European funding. So we strongly recommend, if you are not in the platform, to check it out, explore, and I'm sure you'll find many interesting profiles there. So back to you, Margarita. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariam. And then aside from this brilliant tool that you can use online, once you have your partners in the second edition of Performio, we also developed a conversation starter toolkit. This was developed together with our partner Idea Consult. And it's really a toolkit that can spark conversation between potential partners, really to identify common goals and challenges. So it's really to align yourself with potential partners or current partner to really say, where do we want to go together? And of course, it's also specifically designed for a Performio proposals, but can also be used for other purposes, as Mariam said, in the same way for the matchmaking platform. We're going to also have a more in-depth help desk about how to find partners and the matchmaking, so stay tuned for that. Now we get into the priorities, which is probably really the heart of the open call and what really makes Performio different and standing out from other funding scheme in a way. So the priorities stay the same as the one of the second edition, which are diversity and inclusion. Diversity, very briefly, means basically the presence of differences, and by inclusion we mean the not just the presence of difference, but including marginalized groups in your proposal in a way that empowers them, and they really have powers into making decision and be involved in the proposals as a decision maker, as I was saying. Second priority is the fight against climate change. Which again, this is probably more straightforward what it means, but it can be addressed into many different ways. Can be addressed directly via reducing your impact, can be addressed in a sort of an awareness point. Perhaps the most important thing I can tell you is that we always approach fight against climate change in a lens of climate justice. So having that in mind and what you can do from that perspective. One of the big novelties of this third edition is that we're actually asking all proposals to address both priorities. Last time you could choose. This time we really are working into the integration as well of these two priorities, while also recognizing that it's extremely challenging to put the same level of attention to both. So what we ask project to do is to select a core priority, which is really the one that you're focusing on more. At the same time, to take into account and implement concrete measures addressing the second priority. So this is specifically asked to you in the application process, but it's also an invitation to think, how can these two work with each other instead of looking at them as silos? Next to these two priorities, we also are keeping some important principle for Perform Europe, which is that all proposals should aim for quality and innovation. And this is not prescriptive. In a way, we want you to tell us what does it mean for your project, that it's a qualitative project, and also what innovation means for you. This can be on the level of the artistic work, it can be on the level of the way it's presented, in the way you connect with audiences. Again, here we're really looking for your perspective and your ideas. Very importantly, we also want our proposal to be built on fair practices. And by fair practices, this can also mean a set of many different things that goes from basically everything that improves the social and economical condition of the people involved in the project, everybody, not just the partners. So it can go from the fair pay, so that economical aspect, to solidarity, the way resources are shared, and so on. And lastly, we also encourage all proposals to first expand the participation of underrepresented regions in Europe in touring influxes. So really make sure that we have a diversity, again, connected to the priority, but this is transversal to them as well. And also to promote collaboration across different regions of Creative Europe. So in a nutshell, this means not only create collaboration with your neighbor countries, but really go a bit beyond. So in a way that also this influx of touring work are wider in Europe and don't stay perhaps only between neighbor countries. And again, this is just an encouragement. This is about the priorities. And then a recap of what we are asking in the online application. So the application has to be delivered to our portal, which means that the lead partners is going to take care of submitting it, which also means the lead partner needs to have a Perform Europe account. And also all the other partners needs to have an account, because we're going to ask this info in the portal. So the form is divided in a first part, which is mainly about the partners. So a list of them and their information, and a new addition to this year, we asked to already sign a cooperation agreement to really, signal to us that you have a solid collaboration between each other. We have a template for that you can find, so you can refer to that. Then we enter into the part of the description of the proposal. So you have to name it and describe it. So the object, the priorities, as well as the timeline. And then we get into the artistic proposal, which include the artistic works and the other complementary activities that you can organize. For instance, complementary to the performances can be workshop, lectures, exhibitions, screenings, many other things. Really up to you. And after that, also a list of the presenting context. By presenting context, we mean where the presentation are shown. This could be traditional presenting context, it can be non-traditional presenting context. So you can present those to us, and also telling us the estimated dates and location of where those performances that you listed are taking place. Then we have a section about the fairness requirement, so telling us about how you're going to address that. Details of the capacity building activities that you want to do. And then there we also have a part for the communication strategy. And then lastly, of course, we ask for a detailed budget. There is also a new template that you can use for that. And also we're going to do some specific help desk for the budget and information part. But on this note, I get directly into the funding. So as I said at the beginning, we are granting a total of 1.4 million. And this granting, we are structuring into 3 categories that goes into the basically small, medium, large grant. They follow this category. This is a bit different, again, as in number 2. So we have 50,000 euros, 25,000 euros, and 55,000 euros. So these are the 3 different levels. 5% of the total budget, so the 1.4 million, will be dedicated to projects that involve Ukrainian partnerships or generally involve Ukrainian professionals in the project. And then 2 very important note is that Perform Europe does not support new creations. So the work that you can include in your proposals has to be ready to tour. And this can mean also different things. It can go from a very traditional work that it's made and tours into places and it's as it is. Or it can be what we call a concept, meaning that it's something that is ready to be applied and it doesn't require any creation costs. And the work needs to be finished by the 1st of March of next year. So even if you're applying and the work is not finished, but it will be finished by the 1st of March, it's eligible. And then other very important note is that Perform Euro can cover the 100% of the cost of your project. It's not required to have co-financing, but you can have it, of course. And if you have co-financing, that is basically more, so if the Perform Euro grant covers less than 80% of your total budget that you will submit, we just ask you to sign a letter that kind of confirms that you can carry on the project even if you don't receive those co-financing, and do a little bit of a risk analysis exercise in the case you don't. And now I get into probably the biggest novelty of this year, that we decided to introduce top-ups. So we're gonna have different types that you can see here on the screen. This is very much inspired from Culture Moves Europe. Probably you know this project already, but adapted to our context. So each partnership may request a combination of different available top-ups for a maximum of 5,000 euros. So means that if you apply for the 55,000 grant, you can add on top, if you needed, 5,000 euros for top-ups. So arrive to a maximum of 60,000, which is the maximum that we can grant to project. And this is a requirement by the European Union. So we have green mobility top-up, overseas territories top-up, family for anybody that has childcare responsibility, visa if you have somebody that needs to apply for a visa in the project, accessibility support for the person who are part of the project, so the people that are traveling or the artists and so on, anybody that is working in the proposals. And then we also have a top-up for audience access, so anything that could enhance the accessibility of the presentation in itself. And here you can see on the screen all the amounts and so on. You can find also in our budget template the list of basically what is eligible to cover. This is just a recap, and I'm just going to mention something. Of course, staff costs, travel, artistic fees, transportation of equipment, copyright, communication. Then as I highlighted, we have the capacity building costs, which has to be 1.5%. Complementary activity that you organize, of course, like workshop, etc. And then we also have a section for specific accessibility costs and specific greening costs that can be covered fully or not by the top-ups as well. Okay, let's now imagine that you got selected. What's happening at that moment? So as we said, the implementation period is between the 1st of March 2027 until the 31st of January 2028. The lead partner is the one that is going to sign an agreement with us, with Perform Europe, and we receive the grant. So the lead partner needs to take into account that it has to have the capacity, the financial capacity to receive the grant, which also includes the top-up. The requested grant, so the 3 grants level, will be transferred as of now to the lead partner in 3 installments. I will tell you quickly. The first one comes the moment you sign your contract, and this is the 60%. The second one, the 20% of the grant, after you submit a narrative report together with a financial statement 1 month after your first presentation and after it's approved by us. So take that into account. This is 20%. Last installment, the remaining 20% comes at the end of your project, but also after Perform Europe, so let's say the consortium, has finished their reporting for the EU and it's approved by the EU. So this, we're probably looking at summer 2028. And to receive the installment on top of it, the project needs to submit a report, which needs to be approved at the end, and as well fill up an experience survey. So these are the conditions. And with regards to the top-ups, as of now, they're going to be paid together with the last installment. And here you can see an overview of the type of proof we ask for each top-up. which, again, they go on proof, they don't go on specific cost. So for the green mobility, we want specific tickets that proves that you have done a green mobility, or if you've traveled to overseas territory. Family, we want a document that's certified that one of the person in the project has carrying responsibility. For the visas, the same. And for the audience access and accessibility support, also any document that basically proof that, you had those type of costs. Now I get very briefly into the evaluation. So how it is going to work. So after the deadline, we're going to have a period of eligibility check, which is done by the Perfumero team. And then overall, the evaluation is overseen by the evaluation committee, which includes all partners behind Perfumero Consortium that are observing the evaluation procedure, guaranteeing its quality, and approve the final selection. And once we have done the eligibility check, the eligible application will automatically go to our experts evaluators. The non-eligible one, they're gonna get a communication about it. And then the expert evaluators do their independent evaluation. Each eligible proposal will be evaluated by 2 different experts. Once that is done, the Perfumero team is consolidating the 2 evaluations and then making basically a ranking of the highest scoring application. Then it's submitted, as I was saying, to the evaluation committee for final approval. How are the award criteria? You have all the details in the open call, but here I just wanted to briefly recap them. 4 different sections. The first one is relevance of the project, which is 35 points. And this includes, most importantly, how are you addressing the Perfumero priorities, both your core one as well as the secondary one. So as you see, this is the section with the most points. Secondly, we have the quality of content and activity, artistic work, partnership, touring, innovation, and budget. So this is more about the artistic content, how your partnership is developed, your budget, is it realistic? Is it curated enough? Was the innovation that you're bringing to the table? So all this section is 30 points. Then we have a fairness section, which now is 25 points, which basically it's all about the way the proposal is addressing fairness, as I explained before. And then the last section of 10 points for the communication strategy. Very importantly, there are individual thresholds for each criteria and an overall threshold. So for each of these 4 sections, there is a threshold of 50%. So in each of these sections, you have to have at least half of the point. And then overall, we have a 70 out of 100 threshold. So means that all the applications that respect these 2 thresholds would then be the one that make the final ranking, and then we evaluate together, seeing why are the highest scoring ones. This is the overview, and we are having this help desk, of course, to answer any of your questions. You can also find a FAQ page, which is mostly gathering questions from the experience that we had last year. So definitely check it out if you have a question. It is very likely that you can find an answer here or a hint of an answer here. And you can always reach out if something is not clear, and so that we can improve also our FAQ page. And then before we get into the question time, I want to quickly mention that to also check out our activities page, where you can find resources, events, and also news and stories from the past edition. Regarding the resources, as of now, I just want to highlight the guidebook that we did at the end of the 2nd edition, which is divided in 2 volumes, but I really advise you to check out the first volume, because it's the one that gathers really the experience of the 42 projects that toured in the last edition. So here you can see what were the ambition of the project, what is the obstacle that they encountered, and the different strategies and tools they developed. This is definitely something that could help you out to see what was done. Maybe there is some similarities. I think it's a super interesting tool if you're developing your ideas. And for the event section, for now, we have published the schedule of our help desks. So we're having this one today, and then just as a reminder, the next one are the 14th of July and the 28th of July at the same time. But now we can, yeah, here you can also scan QR codes for like the newsletter if you don't follow us. That's also a good way to get in the loop of new things coming up. We also just opened a new broadcast channel on Instagram that I really advise us to subscribe, where we will share useful info, but hopefully also some tips. So definitely check that out.